What skills are essential for being a lawyer? That's really where the skill of negotiation comes in, because you're trying to convince the other side to accept what you did or what you want. When it comes into practice, it's actually operating outside of those black and white lines. It's being able to make that judgment call and figure out the gray areas of the law or the gray areas of what we can and cannot do. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany and I'm a lawyer living in the Silicon Valley. I work in-house, which means I work inside of a company and I'm a transactional lawyer. In today's video, I wanted to talk about a few skills that I think are essential for being a lawyer. And really, if you're in any job, these are good, but especially if you want to be a lawyer, because you're going to be encountering specific things that maybe other professions don't encounter. So if you're interested, then keep on watching. The first skill is an obvious one, but it is to have good negotiation skills. So whether you are a transactional lawyer like I am, or whether you are in litigation, you go to court, you're working on lawsuits and other disputes between parties, you are going to be negotiating, whether that's with opposing counsel, whether that's with a judge, whether that's with opposing counsel in front of a judge, whether that's via email, over documents. Negotiations take on different forms when you're a lawyer, but it really is about getting across your point, what you want, and convincing the other side to agree to it. And that's why it takes skill. For transactional lawyers, we often negotiate over email, phone, and documents on doing red lines. So red lines are when you are making changes to a document and track changes in Microsoft Word. It makes the changes in red and underline. And that's so that you can really see what the changes are made and that you can make decisions based on whether or not you should accept or decline them. Often we also have comment bubbles where we talk about why we are making a certain change or deleting a certain sentence. And that is why it's important to understand why you're making the changes and be able to succinctly explain that to the other side. For example, I'm deleting this because such and such reason. I found that when you are very reasonable, when you have logical explanations for things, then the other side is more willing to agree or negotiate with you. Often you may not get your first choice, but you might be able to work on something where you make a slight compromise and the other side makes a slight compromise, but both sides are equally as happy. Sometimes that also just means using your bargaining power. Are you the customer buying a product? You might have more leverage. Are you a bigger company with a bigger name? You might be able to use that a little bit. I have found that being unreasonable is not the way to go. I've often encountered lawyers who come across very aggressive with an unreasonable position and they say they're not willing to budge. Unfortunately, that doesn't work because me representing my client or my company, I can't agree to that position, and these are the reasons why. Usually, if you just keep chipping at their argument, eventually they do cave and they're willing to compromise a little bit. But sometimes if sales is breathing down your neck, your boss is breathing down your neck, you got to get something signed and done, you might have to take certain compromises that are a little more than you would have liked to take. It's all about weighing the risks and the benefits. Is it worth taking this risk in order to sign this deal? How big of a risk is this risk really? What will the outcomes be? And if the risk is pretty low to you and it's more about a pride thing, just agree to it because you want to get the deal done. And you'll know what are certain things that your company is willing to agree to and what things they aren't, certain things that are a hard no, and things that are a soft yes or a soft no. So being able to negotiate is an essential skill if you're going to be a lawyer. My next tip is to be able to think critically. So you're going to be presented with a myriad of issues that you need to sort through. A business person might come to you and say, we have this problem, what should I do? You are acting as an advisor. You're not there to make decisions. You just lay out the facts, the risks. This is what could happen. These are the outcomes, and you make the decision as the business. So that's why you need to be able to think critically on an issue of really thinking multiple steps ahead. If this happens, what will this outcome be? If this happens, what are the risks that are associated with this decision? If you aren't able to think about all those things at once and put all of those pieces together, then you're not going to be able to give a good recommendation or give good facts to your business partner. Oftentimes you're presented with an issue that has no precedence, something that you've never encountered before, something that the business has never encountered before, and that's where you really need to use good judgment and make a judgment call, weighing both the risks and the benefits. When you come across a unique solution, you really have to think about it and then figure out what the best path is forward. Again, you're not there to make a decision, you're just there to advise your business partners and different business units by giving them the different risks and outcomes and having them make the decision themselves. Unfortunately, things are not always black and white. You would think being a lawyer and the law is very obvious, but when it comes into practice, it's actually operating outside of those black and white lines in the gray area. Because if something were that easy, then a robot could probably do our job. But our value add is being able to make that judgment call and figure out the gray areas of the law or the gray areas of what we can and cannot do. The next tip is to be able to be organized and multitask. When you're a lawyer, and really when you're working in any company, multiple people are going to be asking you for multiple things. And often everything is always on fire. This needs to be done right away, this needs to be done right away, and you have to be able to organize all of your tasks and know which ones to tackle first and which ones to tackle next. A tip that I have is usually I take care of the things that are the quickest first. That way I can just cross it off my list and get it done with, and then start working on the other things on my list. Often you're gonna have your boss asking you to do something and another business owner or business unit asking you to do something, and you have to figure out how to do both of them at the same time or how to prioritize one over the other. That is also why I think lawyers work a lot of long hours, because especially if you're working in a law firm, you're gonna have several clients that are gonna come to you at midnight, 10 p.m., 7 a.m. and ask you to do something, and you have to do it right away. Especially if you're working with courts, they have deadlines, you have to file things at a certain time. So you are always working up against these deadlines when clients are getting you information late. Even at my job, I might have a project that I'm working on or a contract that I'm working on. I have several questions out to the business owners. They need to get back to me before I can send it back. I might ask a question to the finance team or accounting. Has this been paid? Is this the right pricing? I can't release a draft unless they've given me my answer. And so I'm waiting on several different people to get me things. And of course, it's on their time. Once they give me the answer, I have to quickly input it into the draft and then turn it around to the salesperson. So it's really juggling a lot of different tasks, a lot of different information at once. So being able to be organized, knowing if someone asks you to do something, what they ask you to do, jotting down that note, and then making sure you input it into your to-do list to do later on. Especially in this age where everyone is very accessible, you're going to be getting emails, Slacks, when you're in the office, people coming up to you and asking you for things. And so it's really distilling all of those asks down and organizing your to-do list. Similarly, another skill to have is patience. So again, this is a universal trait across any job that you may have, but especially being a lawyer, people are always asking you for things, and it's always an emergency, and usually it requires you to be patient with that person. Often when someone is coming to a lawyer, they're not in the best state, they're not in the best mood, and it's because people come to us when they have problems, and so they're looking for solutions, and they're looking for the quickest way to get that solution out. Being a transactional lawyer, when you're working on a sales contract, people always want to get the drafts out, the deal signed, especially if it's the end of the quarter. You have to be able to be very reasonable, not get hot-headed, keep an even temper. When a salesperson might lash out at you, it's not personal. That's what I've realized. They're just under a lot of pressure. They have a lot of deadlines that they want to meet personally. So when someone attacks me, I don't take that personally, and I just say, I understand you have this deadline. I'm going to work on it as soon as I can. These are the steps I'm going to take in order to get your task finished. You are a priority, and I will get it done. Don't worry. And I think that really helps calm people down. And similarly, when you're working on negotiating a contract or something with opposing counsel, they might come at you very hot-headed, very angry, very aggressive. And I found the best way to calm them down is to not aggravate them further. So if someone's coming at me at this level, I come at them at this level, and it brings them down. And then we're able to have a very civil conversation about how to move forward, what issues they see and what issues I see, and how to resolve them. And so I think someone that's patient, even-tempered, someone that doesn't, react aggressively right away to things would be very helpful when you're a lawyer. I mentioned this in the previous skill, but you're going to be emailing a lot of different people at once asking for things, and people are not very good at responding. So you have to be patient in waiting for their response, but you also have to be persistent. So I have a list of emails that I need to follow up on, maybe weekly, daily even. You need to be on top of everything. They're going to see an email fly into their inbox, they're going to forget about it, and it's up to you to remind them because you need to get your work done. So persistence is also key. My last skill is that you need to be able to understand multiple concepts, often ones that are difficult. For example, I need to understand the product that we're selling, the product that we're offering. I need to understand what the engineers are doing, what is marketing doing, what is sales doing. If we have a vendor, for example, what is this vendor doing? What kind of a software is it? Is it a SaaS product? What risks are there associated with this vendor? And that really means, what does this vendor do? Because while I'm reading a contract, I need to understand what the vendor is doing. That way, when I read the different provisions, I know what to look for, what protections we may need. Again, it's all about assessing the risk. And so if this vendor is a high risk vendor, then I might need to add certain provisions in there to protect our company. But if I don't understand what this vendor does, then I might not fully understand what to add into the contract. And often, if you work for a company that doesn't have a simple product, you're going to need to understand the ins and outs of how this works. You even need to understand pricing. So in some ways, you do have to do a little bit of math and understand financial models, maybe even accounting. If pricing structures are difficult, it might take you some time to understand these things. I know for me, if I don't fully understand something, it's harder to give advice. It's harder to understand how to answer people when they ask you questions. And just to be a good legal advisor, you need to be able to understand these complex concepts. So that's a really helpful skill to have, and I think it goes hand in hand with thinking critically because you need to be able to understand how things work. So those are the major skills that I think are essential for being a lawyer. Let me know in the comments below if you have any further questions or if you think I missed a certain skill. Again, being a lawyer has many different facets, and especially depends on what type of lawyer you are. This really came from my perspective of being a transactional lawyer, but I think that seeing how other lawyers work in different settings, a lot of these skills are transferable. As usual, please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!